Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. I am your host, Greg Romero Wilson, a mustachioed aficionado of comedy and sometimes fantasy football. This was one of those weekends. Again, I'm staring down another 1-1 weekend. Aviv Sirkin, thank you very much for joining the show. I don't know if you do fantasy football, but if you got any fantasy football pain that you would like to share with us from this weekend, if anything now, and in the real world of football, Jeff Husbands, how are you, brother? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. I don't know if you're a football fan or not, but sure, chime in. Just type in your pain, your victories. Yes, hey, I love you, and I love the Cowboys, and we're going to start with the very real, harsh reality of what happened to my beautiful Dallas Cowboys. The number one football team in the world, the number one sports franchise, the most valuable, and, I grew up in Dallas. I love the Cowboys. And to be clear, I wasn't born in Dallas. I was born in San Jose, California. My family moved to Dallas when I was a kid, and I spent about 20-some-odd years there, and that's why that is my hometown. Thank you, Jeff Husbands. You also look amazing, and I imagine you smell terrific. It's a beautiful day here in Los Angeles, and yes, let's just start with the real, very real, and yes, let's go Dodgers. That's right, Dodgers starting the World Series tonight. That's very exciting stuff. Of course, being a football fan, I would rather watch Week 7 Monday Night Football than Game 1 of the World Series. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to record the World Series and watch it on delay so that I can fast forward through so much of the very boring thing that is baseball. But it is the World Series, and this is about when I start paying attention to it. So yes, go Dodgers! And that's the other thing. That's the great thing about not really being a baseball fan. Like when it comes to basketball, I love the Mavericks. Although it's hard not to root for the Lakers now that we got LeBron, baby. The king is in town. Hello, Max Solway. How are you, brother? I guess it's evening wherever you are. Please, if you had any major victories that came through for you this weekend in fantasy football, if there's anything you did right or something you truly, truly regret, type it right in there. Let's talk about it. Let's chop it up. Scott Berman is joining me right now. I wish I could add people today to the video podcast, but I can't do it today. I'm not set up for it. I'm trying to figure out the sound because it isn't working right. People always get on to me about using a microphone, but that's because I'm recording an audio podcast, and unfortunately, it just didn't work out. Yes, that's right. Goal! But the Cowboys got screwed. Absolutely butt-fucked by the refs. And it wasn't the only bad call. There were a lot of non-calls. Now, don't get me wrong. It's not Lamont Shepard, welcome to the show. It's not that the Cowboys didn't commit certain fouls, but they were not calling anything on the Redskins. That one where I think it was Bibbs broke free and got down for a touchdown, there was a clear block in the back, followed by two holding down the field, and they didn't call any of it. And then on that final kick, which would have tied the game, which was absolutely the Cowboys to take, we have a very good young kicker in Marr coming in there, and the kid, yes, and Andrew Luck was phenomenal last weekend. I played him in one of my leagues. He was I believe, the number 4 quarterback on the weekend. But they called that foul, and here's the thing. I know you can call me a homer. You can say that, Greg, you're just a fan, and you would know, because when I switched over to the Monday Night Football Night in America broadcast on NBC, they were showing it over and over again, and Tony Dungy and the other, they were all saying there was no foul on the play. And you know how it was real iffy, it was real sketchy? They didn't even bother showing the replay in the broadcast. They skipped the replay altogether. They just went right to the second play. And again, I don't know if the Cowboys were out of timeouts. I don't think they were. But you obviously you can't challenge a penalty. But that was a bullshit call. That was absolute total bullshit. The Cowboys should have won that game. And man, it drives me fucking nuts. And that's what they got to change about the challenge rule. If you're going to have challenges, we should be able to challenge a penalty call. You should be able to say, no, that's a bullshit penalty. And you should have them look at it, and if there is definitive evidence that it was just like with a call that you could turn over, if it's definitive, you should say, yeah, no, that was a bad penalty. We pick up the flag. We got to start being able to challenge these fouls because it's costing my beautiful, sweet baby Cowboys. It's costing them games, and it's cost other people games. And that's the thing. I mean, sometimes it works out in your favor. Sometimes it works against you. Mike Smith, welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. And yes, those refs should be fired. If you cost a team a game, if you affect their record, and again, there's only 16 games in a national, it's not like you blow a game in baseball. You blow a game, you got 150 other games. You blow a game in basketball. You got 68 other games. I mean, you have tons of other games to play to make it up. You can lead by half a game. That does not exist in the NFL. When you cost the NFL a game, you could cost them a season. And that is the difference, and that's why penalties need to be something that you can challenge in the NFL. I'm telling you, it just broke my heart. It just broke my heart. Now let's just get into fantasy football news. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes continuing to set records. I mean, when you look at what Deshaun Watson did last season and when he started out, and now you have Patrick Mahomes doing this season. I mean, yes, obviously it's a combination of them not letting him hit the quarterback anymore, them calling all kinds of fouls that are making a much friendlier game for the quarterbacks. But it's pretty wild. It's still showing just a ton of talent. But yes, obviously, if this were a different season, Mahomes would have been hit real hard a few times by now, and he'd probably be, looking at a similar situation, what happened to Deshaun Watson. But you can't really do it no more, and that's the way it goes. And yes, Jonathan Mesh, right now, chiming in. He's who I'm playing. He's up on me right now. Let's look at this. He is up on me. 109 to 132. So I'm down by roughly 23 points. I'm down by 23 points. And but I have two players left. He has Julio Jones. I have Saquon Barkley, who against Atlanta absolutely has the potential to go off. And Evan Ingram finally back in the lineup, who is, when healthy, an elite tight end. So is there potential? I mean, they're giving me a 31% chance of pulling this out. And the one thing that I like here is that Janoris Jenkins is really the only decent defensive player the Giants have, and Janoris Jenkins should be on Julio Jones all night. But even still, Julio Jones, he's going to be a target monster. He's going to get a lot of receptions. So in reality, yes, don't bet. I'm probably going to get juiced by the Meshinators, but you know what? Stranger things have happened. And so I will sit there and I'm gonna pray for the best. I'm gonna look for Saquon Barkley. And here's the thing: as a Cowboys fan, I don't ultimately want the Giants to win. Ultimately, I want those two players to do great, and they still lose the game. Ultimately, I'm still rooting for Atlanta in that game to get it to Sanu, to get it to Calvin Ridley, to get it to anybody. And let me tell you something else. I honestly believe this is going to be a breakout game for Ito Smith tonight. I think they've been using him sparsely here and there, primarily because they've been expecting Devontae Freeman to come back. Now that he's on the IR, I know everybody's like playing Tevin Coleman, and he should have a great game, and he should. But don't be surprised if Ito Smith starts taking bits out of that run game share. And I think in 3 weeks, you're going to be seeing a lot more of the 50-50 that they were looking for with Devontae Freeman. I think a lot of it's going to be turning Ito's way. I like Ito Smith a lot to have a breakout game tonight against, a rather porous New York Giants defense. And by the way, Shelly Hargrove, how are you? Welcome to the show. Talking fantasy football once again. I wish you were, you know what? I should start a new league and put everybody in it. That way we have more friends on there. Thank you, CC Wright, for the compliment there on the Progressive commercial. It's so funny. I've done so many TV shows as a guest star, as a series regular recently on Fox's Ghosted. So many shows, none of them have gotten me nearly as much visibility as one big commercial. And I don't think any of them are going to pay as much either. I haven't gotten paid on it yet, but it's all about repetition. It's all about the views, about how many times it broadcasts, and everybody's seen it. The broadcasting has been fantastic. So I'm very, very grateful and honored to have this opportunity. And it's just weird that of all the things I've ever done, a Progressive commercial is the one that's really getting me the most shine. But let's get back to fantasy football. Let's just go through the games really quickly. Let's start with a game in London. I don't know about you, but I'm one of those guys who has Melvin Gordon in my Comedians League. And I also have him handcuffed with Austin Eckler. Now, I woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, keep in mind, I went to bed at 2:30. Wasted. And I got up. I didn't drive. Thank you, Uber. Thank you, Lyft. You guys always get me home. And so I You think so, Mesh? We'll see by the end of the night. We shall see. But I got up, and sure enough, the first thing I do, I look at my phone, and there's the notice from NFL.com saying, oh, hey, he's inactive. Get him out of your lineup. And I had actually put both Melvin Gordon and Austin Eckler in there as 1-2. And then knowing now, in case I slept through it, but I woke up magically because I care about this for some reason. I don't know what it is. It's like a disease that's in my blood. Even this morning when I should be sleeping and I'm exhausted, all I'm thinking about is, how's it going to work out if Saquon Barkley, I need him to have another one of those big 40-point games, which is possible against a team like Atlanta, but that's what I'm going to need to pull this victory out, and I deserve a fucking win. So in that other team, though, where I didn't play, where I got to take out Melvin Ingram and it was Melvin Gordon and was able to put in Austin Eckler, then I was left with my RB2 position open. And the guy I went with was Isaiah Crowell, because he'd been having that every other game thing, even though he's had a bit of an ankle issue, and then they weren't sure he was going to play. And let me tell you something. Bilal Powell got knocked out of the game, and the Crows still fucking sucked. And I knew it was just because I played him. Fuck him. Andy Hand, how did your weekend go? Be sure and type in how it went there in the comments so we could talk about it. But in that game, unfortunately, I'm up against one of the team members in my Comedians League who, unfortunately, I expected this comedian, Jody Miller, to get on there and to update her team in the morning. She didn't do it. She left in a bunch of inactive players. And now, I'll be honest, I should have texted her and been like, you need to set your lineup. This is bullshit. But I didn't. I was selfish. I chickened out. And my plan at that point was just to let her be a zombie team in the league. And basically anybody that plays her would probably get basically a bye week. Here's the thing, though. I got a few messages from other people in our league who are not so cool with her not playing and participating and updating her team. And Scott Berman, you may say that it is not my job. I am the commissioner. And that's the difference. I am the commissioner of that league. So in this instance, it actually is my job to reach out to her. So Andy Hand chiming in saying he played against his wife and won. Good for you, Andy Hand. You can't let your wife beat you. You can't do it. Not in your house. This is still your house, damn it. Way to be a man. Not that I'm against women winning. Again, we have women in my league. I love, I wanted women in my league, but unfortunately, and one of them is not keeping up. And so I'm going to have to reach out to her this week and get her. Yeah, because I'm the commissioner, I'm going to have to ask her to go ahead and either she will set her lineup or I will have to ask her if I can set her lineup on a weekly basis, because it's just not fair. But I think she should do it. I think she committed to this league. And again, I don't want to ever say, it's because we have women in the league. No, she's a very busy person. I get it. But consequently, I should have done it before our game, and I selfishly let it go. And so it really wasn't even much of a matchup, even though I probably would have won pretty handily in that league. At the end of the day, I feel kind of bad about that. So Andy Hand, you won. That's great. I know right now, Scott Berman, and this is a guy who's put together a great team from the cellar. He's managed to put together a decent lineup, but he's in one of those things. His projection, he's like at 133.52, and the other guy's projected at 133.07. So, but he still has a player playing tonight. So there's a lot of mystery in the air for that one. And unfortunately, Berman needs this one so bad. The nation needs to come alive. But yes, you pieced together a very good team off the waiver wire using the fobs. You've done a good job. Is that right? God has seen according to John Mesh, God has seen what I have done, and I will never win again. But of course, I did that in a different league. So I don't think that should cross-apply to our league or anything else. I love this. According to Andy Hand, they have 3 women in his league, and they talk more shit than the guys do. And that's what I was hoping would happen in our league. I mean, these are comedians, great comedians, Jody Miller and Vanessa Graddick, and they don't really talk that much at all. I thought they would be in on the shit talking, but they weren't. So that being the case, I'm hoping they get a little more involved, but if not, we'll just have to change them out for next season. But they're committed to this season, and I expect them to stay involved. Jack Asadorian is joining us right now. Now, he's number 1 in our league. He's got Todd Gurley and the Rams defense, which is the defense that I have. That is the only reason that I'm still in this game against Jonathan Mesh. Because one of the things I said last week I said that I did not like Latavius Murray because he had that one great game against Arizona. Other than that, he stunk. But apparently, this is this is what happens. Because I said that, as it turns out, it was just a get-right game for Latavius Murray, and now Latavius Murray is back to being the Latavius Murray of last year, which is what I had said earlier in this year, and then he went out and disappointed the fuck out of me. But that's the way it is. And yes, Jonathan Bash, you know what? Maybe we will put you in the Comedians League next year. You do talk. So it's not your shit talking that's so great. It's your use of visual aids. We have one guy in my league, Jonathan Bash, who is probably the funniest of all my friends. Probably funnier than me. He's a funny motherfucker. And he goes out and he finds great visual aids. He took my Progressive commercial and he had a bunch of jizz flying through it, and he put like a special banner at the bottom going 15 minutes could save you or whatever. He put Greg's team is going to lose, is going to get juiced, and it was pretty damn funny. And he's just great at that stuff, and he's a lot of fun to have in the league. But Mahomes continues now. Again, remember I said wait and see on Mitch Trubisky? Well, we waited and we saw. Going up against New England, he still wound up being the number 2 QB. He ran for a touchdown. He had 81 yards rushing. He had 2 touchdowns passing, 333 yards, 2 interceptions, though. That was the part that I was a little bit worried about. But at the end of the day, now is the time to pick up Mitch Trubisky. If you need a quarterback number 2, you need somebody in your pocket, that's the guy to have. Now, the guy that I didn't want to play was Jameis Winston, and he ended up actually being the overall passing leader with 365 yards, but he threw for no touchdowns, and he had 2 interceptions, but he did run 1 touchdown in, and that kind of saved his day. He ultimately wound up with about 23 points. He wound up with 23 points, and Drew Brees, although remember I said Drew Brees knew this was the team he needed to beat, and he beat them, but he only brought in about 20 points on fantasy, but he had no interceptions, but only threw for like 200 plus yards, but 2 TDs. So because it wasn't a spectacular yardage day, again, to me, in that instance, the separation is 4 points. Worth the gamble. I think I was fine sticking with it. Now, the other one that I wanted to switch, but I didn't, was Nuke Hopkins for Tyler Boyd, because we were saying there's going to be a shootout in the evening game in Cincinnati versus Kansas City. As it turns out, it was a shootout, but only in one direction. It was Kansas City shooting the shit out of Cincinnati. And unfortunately, this is who Cincinnati is. And they're turning right back into Cincinnati again. They do this every season, where they start out incredible at the top of the season. They win 4 or 5 games out of the first 6. Everybody's like, watch it. And then they just turn right into fucking Cincinnati. Again, A.J. Green does manage to stay good, but in terms of Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green is fragile, and he will get hurt again by the end of the season, so you do not drop Tyler Boyd. Don't trade him, hold him. He will have value, and he's going to have an up and down season. And yes, Dalton is just not somebody, not even streaming. I know he looks good. Don't fucking touch him. Fuck Andy Dalton. He is exactly the same this season as he's been every single season that he's been in the league. Starts out hot and then garbage. Absolute fucking garbage. And yes, let's talk about the Amari Cooper trade to my beloved Dallas Cowboys. We have been saying we need a threat down the field, and this is why Mark Vieira consistently bad for Andy Dalton. Yes, Andy Dalton manages to find his way to the bottom every single year. Now let's talk about Amari Cooper going to the Cowboys, because I know they gave up a number 1 round pick. And listen, this draft coming up, with all these picks that the Raiders have, I mean, everybody's shitting on them right now, but they've got an accumulation of picks. This will be a very different team next season. And again, he's playing a 10-year game in 3 seasons, not next season, but in 2 more seasons. So in 2 seasons from now, we're going to see the fruit of what this game plan is that he's putting in there with all these picks. Now, yes, Amari Cooper has a very serious case of the dropsies. However, I mean, sometimes with a talent like this, a change of scenery is all they really need to reboot themselves. You know what I mean? Let's look at Josh Gordon in New England, a guy that I was saying, okay, I think now you can start him. Now you can start him all the way because, yes, and granted, Dak Prescott is not Tom Brady, but just look at what it's doing for him, the consistency, the ability to stay on the field. Sometimes it isn't just about their environment with the team. It's about their environment there in that city and the way that they've built their life in that city. And Amari Cooper's been with Oakland since he was a rookie, since he was a young man running out doing stupid shit. So maybe the move to Dallas is just the move he needs to get his confidence back and start making those big plays again. Because if you remember, he was a big play guy back in 2015. So he hasn't really lost the talent. He hasn't really been that injured. He has had some injury, but not devastating injuries. I don't believe he's had a full knee reconstruction or anything like that. So what do we really I'm not going to prejudge this. And yes, I'm biased. I'm a huge Cowboys fan. I'm hoping that this is going to be a game changer for the Cowboys. And I believe it might be. But it remains to be seen. Let's talk about KERRYON Johnson. Carry on my wayward son. Between you are done. This is a guy I really liked. And I wanted to make a trade for him during the bye week. And you want to get him on the bye week when they can't be used and the owner's like looking like, oh, I got to fill the gap. I got to get points. And I feel like I missed the window on that opportunity. Now, I did make a trade today. Today, I set up a trade. I'm trading Devin Funchess for Mark Ingram. And obviously, Mark Ingram is always going to be secondary to Kamara, but on the upside, he is healthy. It will keep him healthier throughout the season, and I just need a dependable, healthy RB2. And Devin Funchess, I mean, he's a guy, unfortunately, I keep leaving in Stephon Diggs and leaving out Devin Funchess. Devin Funchess, a clear wide receiver one, and Stephon Diggs, not just a clear wide receiver two, but a distant two. Adam Thielen becoming Mr. Reliable. And listen, he was a targets monster this weekend. He saw like 11 targets and 7 receptions, but all of them were for like 3 yards, 2 yards, -1 yard. All the decent plays downfield are absolutely going to Adam Thielen. So, and Jonathan Gregory here is saying that the Cooper trade is equivalent to the Kelvin Benjamin trade. And I don't think that that's exactly right. Because Kelvin Benjamin went to a team that was in total disrepair and then went into further disrepair. Whereas the Cowboys are a team that have their major pieces back together. They just need a threat down the field. So I don't think this is quite the same. I really don't. And that's not just the Cowboys fan in me talking. This is me being as analytical as possible. I mean, when Kelvin Benjamin went to... Tyrod Taylor's a guy that just hasn't been able to put it all together. And LaShawn McCoy, I think, was very injured his first season. And then he comes back. And then they get rid of Tyrod Taylor. And they go with, Josh Allen and Nathan Peterman. So I think the pieces are a little bit different. And also, the Buffalo Bills, suck on my dick. They just are not the great Dallas Cowboys. I'm sorry, they just aren't. So we'll see. I think it's going to be, I hope it works out. Talking about Kareem Hunt, back in it. I know you've been waiting all season. He's been not delivering, but man, what a complete blowout. And here's the other thing. Talk about defenses. I think we have to start talking about the Kansas City defense when they're at home. When they're at home, the Kansas City defense is really spectacular. And I don't think it's necessarily that Cincinnati is so bad. I really think that the Kansas City defense plays great at home. And I think don't get me wrong. Yes, Dalton blows. They're starting their downward spiral, and that's the rest of the season for them. Dump everybody. I saw one guy's trading away AJ Green. I mean, he's always going to be consistent until he gets injured, and he will get injured because that's what AJ Green does. Tariq Cohen continues to have a great day. And I said it would be a resurgent day for Jordan Howard. And I think Jordan Howard ended up having a better day than he had been having. You took him out. You ended up with Latavius Murray instead. John Mesh. Let's see. Did you play Jordan Howard? Do you have I thought you had Jordan Howard. Maybe not. But Jordan Howard was one of those guys that I was expecting to, and he ended up at least getting a touchdown. He ended up having a better day, yes. He ran 12 rushes, 39 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 reception, another touchdown. So he brought in 12 points. It looks like so I mean, that's not a bad day for Hojo, but Tariq Cohen right now definitely seems to be the play. Sort of like, oh, by the way, I dropped, Mixon again. He should have had a big night, and they should have been throwing him swing passes to the outside. I don't know what the fuck they were doing. Scott Berman has Jordan Howard, and you played him, yeah. And let's see what he got you. Let's go to your game right here, Team Nation, the one that you're in it. You played Jordan Howard. Yeah, he gave you 11 points. He had 1 rush TD and 9 yards receiving. So, I mean, and 39 rushing yards. So it wasn't a great day, but it was a better day. At least he got the touchdown, but he was starting to look good. But Tariq Cohen, he's doing to Jordan Howard what's happening to Derrick Henry over in Tennessee with that the other kid. That guy, and let me tell you something. I was watching that game, and Derrick Henry's never getting the lead back from Dion Lewis. Dion Lewis is absolutely going to take off. And yes, Kenyon Drake is another guy. I mean, he's up and down, and this was one of those up days. I mean, he finished pretty high up there. I think it looks like he's about the 9th overall. He finished with 72 yards, a touchdown, 4 receptions, 15 yards, put about 22 points in the bank. So, I mean, Kenyon Drake, but again, you can't trust him. And I was worried about that matchup versus Detroit. And remember, I said play the Detroit defense, and the Detroit defense had a pretty good day. And I said Detroit was going to win that game, and they absolutely did. So let's look at the things that I said that came true. Let's go with what did I tell you? I told you Osweiler would blow, and he blew. He was the reason they lost that game, put entirely on there. And yes, I said wait and see on Nick Chubb, and we waited. We saw you can play Nick Chubb going forward. He just needed the reps. He looked fantastic. And of course, he was one of those guys that I picked up off the waiver wire. He didn't do shit. It looked like Carlos Hyde had a firm grasp on the thing, so I let him go. And then when I went to pick him up off the waiver wire in my other league, I missed it by 30 fucking minutes. But yes, Nick Chubb is looking pretty good. I say you could play him all the way, especially with how thin that running back division is this year and how rare it is to get one guy that's really kind of running things. Duke Johnson didn't really threaten for his leadership of that role. If you were hoping that Duke Johnson might show up and actually start taking some touches, it looks like they're firmly going to give it to Nick Chubb. So I got a Chubb for Chubb going forward. What did I say? Play the Detroit defense. Play called Steven. I said I liked James White a little bit more than Sony Michel in that matchup. Now, Sony Michel ended up getting injured, so of course James White did do better, and that's going to be a situation to monitor with Sony Michel because I think it was a knee situation. And if that's the case, I mean, James White's value is only going to go up, but you might start seeing some of the other guys get in the mix too. And if you're one of those people who's been riding TJ Yeldon, obviously, I don't think they would have made a trade for someone that's that much of a starter if they were really that happy with TJ Yeldon. Because the reality is, as good as TJ Yeldon's been in fantasy, he hasn't been good enough to help the Jaguars win. They've been losing. And so that being the case, I think tell TJ, if you have a chance to trade TJ Yeldon for some other valuable piece, get rid of him right now. Let TJ Yeldon go. Chubb over Mixon or Ingram. For me right now, because he's going to get more touches, I would play Chubb over both. I would play him over Drake, Mixon, and Ingram. Because the problem with Drake is you still have the Frank Gore conundrum. You don't know when they're going to use them, when they're not going to use them. And so Scott Berman is currently offering me a trade for TJ Yeldon. I will not be taking him because I made a trade this morning for Mark Ingram. So that's it. So I'm out of the trade game. That's the only trade I want to make. But yes, KERRYON Johnson, a guy I was really excited about. He came out, ran his fucking nuts off. He looked absolutely great. 158 yards. Although they kept giving LeGarrette Blount the fucking ball for the TDs. And that's, I think, going to always be kind of the rub. I don't know why they do that. Just stick with KERRYON Johnson. Put LeGarrette Blount if KERRYON gets injured. But stop giving away the touchdowns. Stop giving them away. And John Mesh, now you want to trade me Fournette. I will not be taking Fournette. I mean, clearly, They just don't expect him to be able to come in with any consistency for the rest of the season. This is what I said preseason. This is why I stayed away from him. I told you Fournette was going to have problems. 20 pounds lighter is not a good thing for a running back. And this is what you see. Injuries, getting hit, not being able to take the hits. It's a bad season for him. Now, I was interested to see the way Derek Anderson, so let's talk about my conundrum. I was like, who do I play in my RB2 spot this week? Matt Breida, LaShawn McCoy, or Adrian Peterson. Now, for me, Adrian Peterson was out because he was going against a very stout Dallas defense. LaShawn McCoy and Matt Breida then were the choices. Now, with the offense being a mess in Buffalo, I didn't want to go with LaShawn McCoy, so I went with Matt Breida, who, again, fuck you Niners, you fucking cocksuckers. They took him off the injury report. They were like, no, he's totally fine. He's totally healthy. You fucking liars. First play of the game. He's like, oh, my ankle again, my ankle. You fucking idiots. Just leave him out. Let him fucking heal, you assholes. Now Mostert, listen, if you haven't picked up Mostert off the waiver wire, fuck Morris, he ain't going to do shit. Mostert is the man. He looked very, very good. If you need a running back and you're not willing to make a trade, go pick up Mostert. I mean, because one of these weeks he may pull a Marlon Mack. Now, Marlon Mack obviously went off for Indianapolis. But the question is, can you rely on it? And I think so long as he's healthy, you can, but I don't know how healthy he's going to stay. Marlon Mack has a tendency to have hammy issues, and so, play him while you can. If it were me, I would make a trade this week with Marlon Mack. I'd put him out there, and I would go get I would go get Nick Chubb, okay, and with some other, like a tight end maybe, with some potential, do something like that, because Marlon Mack to me is one of those guys, I don't know if this is going to be something we're going to see with consistency. I would like to say so. Right, plus it was versus the Bills, which I had said I liked Naheem Hines more because I thought the Bills would be tougher up front. Oh my God, those guys, the Bills suck on the road. They just suck, which is one of the other things I said. So, of course, I was like, play everybody on the Colts, and sure enough, it paid off. And again, Latavius Murray, are we seeing the trend here? Are we seeing him start to be like, I'm the man? Or is he going to slide back to the way he was at the beginning of the season? I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. Lamar Miller finally showing up, basically being the Lamar Miller you'd hoped he'd be all season long. If you held on to him, you probably didn't play him, but he wound up having a great day. 100 yards rushing, a touchdown. That's what you want from Lamar Miller. And that was against a very good Jacksonville defense. So at the end of the day, I like Lamar Miller right now going forward. I think he's looking pretty good. This is the guy you've been waiting for. Also, another guy you've been waiting for all season, Trey Burton. He was a guy I drafted and let go because they just weren't using him hardly at all. But Trey Burton wound up being your number one tight end of the weekend. Trey Burton ended up with 9 receptions, 126 yards and a TD off of 11 targets. He wound up with over 30 points. Now, is this what I think you might see this with some consistency because and Javon Curse was a guy I didn't like. I was like, I don't know. I'm not seeing it. I was not on the Javon Curse bandwagon. Everybody went up and picked him up and was like, oh, I got to get Javon Curse. And I was like, I don't know. That's on you. And sure enough, he stunk it up. If anything, if you watch that game, the Jets, Darnold was trying to get the ball to Robbie Anderson. I think Robbie Anderson continues to be the guy worth having on that team. Quincy Enunwa's fallen off the face of the earth, and Curse actually gets the Blutarski of the week. 0.0. But back to my running back conundrum. I played Matt Breida. He went out, got injured. But here's the thing. In the 10 a.m. tilt, when LaShawn McCoy got knocked out with a concussion in the first quarter, I was like, woo, dodge that bullet. Either of my two guys are going to be better than the 1 point that LaShawn McCoy registered before he got knocked out of the game. And then out of nowhere, Breida gets knocked out. and comes back in and fumbles the ball. He ended up closing with a negative half a point. I would have been better with LaShawn McCoy by a full point. By a full point and a half, with him getting knocked out. And it turns out the play was Adrian Peterson. Even though he didn't have a huge game, he got about 97 yards and about 11 points total on the day, which would have been far superior to anything I got out of the other guys. But I blame San Francisco. They're not being smart with Matt Breida. They're playing him when he's not healthy. Let Mostert carry the ball. And yes, I should have gone with the child abuser that is. And people say, listen, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it. But yes, I should have gone with Adrian Peterson. But, I'm still in it. I need Saquon Barkley to have a big Saquon Barkley day, which the Atlanta Falcons are the kind of Falcons, and even Evan Ingram, again, you could throw on this team. I to believe it or not, I like my chances tonight with Janoris Jenkins on Julio Jones all night, who has yet to find the end zone. Or no, he did last week. I think maybe he finally got one. So I don't know. I'm still hopeful, but I'm not counting on it. Is Christian Kirk going to be something? And the answer is yes. Whether that is something good or something bad, I have no idea. Because the reality is this. He's, Josh, I always want to call him Cohen. It's not Josh Cohen. What's the kid's name? The quarterback that and now they're having in Arizona, and they're using the back. Anyways, they're a mess over there in Arizona. They got totally just beat the fuck up. And I don't trust them at all. I mean, look what they're doing with David Johnson. They're just running him up the gut over and over again instead of throwing him the ball out wide. Rosen, there you go. Josh Rosen. He ain't looking so good. For all his talk and all his swagger, but Christian Kirk is, I think, going to be a strong flex play, or on a bye week if you have to plug him into wide receiver 2. I mean, he's seeing targets, he's seeing receptions, but it's on a team that is absolutely in disarray. And the other thing is, if they ever figure out that they can throw the ball to their converted receiver, David Johnson, that is going to dramatically affect Kirk's value. But again, they seem to be impervious to the obvious. They just can't do it. Scott Berman's calling me anti-Semite for being anti-Josh Cohen or Allen or Carson or whatever that kid's name is. I don't even, Rosen. I just don't like it. Barber was a big waste again. Yes, I told you wait and see on Barber. I said that. Was it something that he just needed? Now, he did play slightly better, but again, yeah. No, and that's what I'm saying. When it comes to Marlon Mack, are we seeing that one big game like we saw out of Peyton Barber, or are we seeing the start of a trend? I like my chances better. Now, don't get me wrong, with Marlon Mack. Because I liked Marlon Mack in preseason, but the injuries have just kept him out of the game. And so, I don't know, Byron Leftwich, I guess, is now quarterbacking. And I don't know if he's going to help David Johnson either. I mean, it's the coaching. It's the play calling. I mean, he's been there this whole time, and they refuse to get him the ball on the outside. And yes, they got a new offensive coordinator for the Cards. But I just don't know. I don't know if he's going to, I mean, hopefully that's what he does. Hopefully he comes in and his whole goal is to get David Johnson the ball. So maybe this is the week to trade for David Johnson. Maybe because his stock is so low, this might be a great time to buy low on David Johnson. Maybe I should cancel my trade for Mark Ingram and try and go get David Johnson. I may have just talked myself into something it's too late to go to. But either way, I mean, at the end of the day, it is a matter. Okay, Leftwich is the coordinator. But what has Leftwich done as an offensive coordinator? Was he the quarterback's coach or something? I don't know. I haven't heard about him doing anything. So we'll see. We'll see if anybody bites on David Johnson. This might be a good week to go out and buy low on him, because if anything, Leftwich is going to come in and at least try and get the coaching to David Johnson, getting him in space, getting him the ball. So, if you have David Johnson, you might want to hold on to David Johnson. Don't let your pocket get picked. Okay, he was under Andy Reid. That's a good thing to know. Thank you, Scott Berman. But again, we've seen some branches of certain coaching trees succeed and some branches die. And so but again, nobody can do worse than McCoy was doing over there. That was, McCoy stinks as a coach. He's just one of those guys that keeps getting job after job and sucks everywhere he goes. Hopefully after this, you watch, someone's going to try and give him a new job next year. I don't know why. The guy stinks. Quit giving that guy jobs. He should go coach college. That's where he belongs. Just like that other fool that was from Oregon that stunk it up in Philadelphia and traded away all their players. What was that guy's name? Now he's at UCLA, I think. So there's some guys you can trust, some guys you can't. We'll see how that affects him. We'll see how that overall affects him. George Kittle with another great day in that devastating loss. And listen, San Francisco came out to play. But without Matt Breida, without the run game, that once the Rams defense got going, it was just game over. That was a tragedy to watch. Chip Kelly, that was the guy. Thank you very much. Chip Kelly, fuck that guy too. Him and McCoy should just go fuck each other somewhere in some shitty fucking arena league or something. They fucking suck. Bortles got benched. Did you see that? Oh my God, that was the best. Nothing made me happier than watching Bortles get benched because that was just the best. I forgot who they put in. They put in some, but they started to look a little bit better when they got rid of Bortles. Bortles is the problem. And yes, now you have Carlos Hyde, but TJ Yeldon was being very productive. It wasn't the problem. Yes, Cody Kessler, that's right. Cody Kessler came in and started completing passes. He wasn't spectacular, but listen, all you need sometimes is just energy. You just need people to be like, finally, just not Bortles. Oh my God, he's so fucking bad. I loved watching him get benched. That made me so happy. Oh, that gave me a chub. Trubisky doing it with his legs. Oh my God, listen, go get Trubisky. Trubisky is looking great. And that's a question for you guys. Who would you rather have, Mitch Trubisky or Jameis Winston? So that's a very interesting situation. Skylar Stone, welcome to the broadcast. Talking fantasy football, talking real football. I don't know if you do fantasy football. You're a brilliant comedian, a good friend. Let me know if you have any football grievances or exciting about anything that happened. Yeah, I'm inclined to stick with Winston too. Jonathan Gregory says Trubisky. I tend to disagree with Jonathan Gregory on most things though. So I'm going to go with Winston on this one. Ultimately, though, because I think he has better pieces around him in his wide receiving core. And yes, we were talking about any Bears on Skylar Stone looking for love in all the wrong places. Let's see, what else we have? Oh, yeah, so I was way wrong about Latavius Murray. Got that wrong. Tariq Cohen, listen, I think you start that guy with confidence every single week now. He's clearly Matt Nagy, and this is what I was afraid of last year when I had Jordan Howard, but Jordan Howard still managed to take over and be the man. But this year with Matt Nagy, I think Jordan Howard's going to be a bust, and I think it's going to be Tariq Cohen time pretty much the rest of the way, because he fits more with what he's trying to do. I have a note here that I have no idea what it means. Can you drag show Reagan doing? I have no idea what that means. Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey's become money in the bank, huh, guys? Holy shit. Listen, if you held on to him, that's right. Cohen is explosive like Tariq Hill. That's exactly right. And you're right. And they use him like Tariq Hill. And so that's why Cohen, I think, is here to stay. Alshon Jeffrey, I think, is money in the bank. I think Alshon Jeffrey is somebody you're going to want to hold on to and keep playing. I don't know that Golden Tate is done. I wouldn't say that. I think now it is going to be like a week-to-week thing. Like some weeks it's going to be Golden Tate. Some weeks it's going to be Kenny Golladay. But I would not say that Golden Tate is done. But if you were counting on him as your wide receiver one, you're in a difficult position because he's definitely losing touches to Kenny Golladay. Well, Arturo Rivas, yes, I use the microphone. This has nothing to do with the video broadcast. This has to do with the audio podcast that I do later, so it's to get nice, clean sound for that. But thank you for tuning in and being a little bit of a dickhead about it. And people, hey, listen, Skyler, your Chiefs, you got to be throwing out 1,000 loads every single game. I thought it would be a shootout last night, and it was a straight butt fucking. Patrick Mahomes is the truth. He was a guy I wanted to get as my QB2, but I went with the more glamorous choice in Garoppolo, somebody I thought was definitely a more proven choice. But I mean, that's right, Cowboys, number one, but those Chiefs are looking fantastic. It's going to be a hell of a game when they play those Patriots in the AFC Championship game, because that's going to, but I think the Patriots are going to have to come to Arrowhead for that game, and that's going to be a hell of a game. Oh, right, you picked up Mahomes in the week one. Listen, that thing has been Mahomes has been a hell of a pickup for you. It's really saving your season, but you managed to put together a good team. And yes, Jonathan Gregory was saying Patrick Mahomes out of the gate, and so was Jay Davis. Jay Davis in my League of Record was saying Patrick Mahomes out of the gate. And sure, listen, if you got Mahomes, you've got the Deshaun Watson of this season. And here's the thing, here's what I'm wondering, okay? Nobody, I knew he'd be great. I loved him in college at Texas Tech. And in fact, I wanted the Cowboys to get him the year that we got Dak Prescott, but he decided not to enter the draft and go back for his senior season at Texas Tech. But I was watching him as a junior at Texas Tech, and I was drooling for him then. Thank you, Rebecca Paramore Kahachik. She came to see my show at the Ha Ha Cafe on Saturday night. We had a great time. It's always great to see you, dear. You look fantastic. But yes, I was drooling over him when he was in college, and then he didn't come out. Then we got Dak Prescott, and Dak Prescott looked fantastic. I was like, we don't need Mahomes. But if Mahomes had come out after his junior year, I would have been kicking and screaming to get him on the Dallas Cowboys. I loved him in college. He was dropping bombs all over the place. He actually had he had Texas Tech as a nationally ranked team his junior year. That's tough to do when you're Texas Tech. And let's talk about Dallas Goddard. Listen, Zach Ertz is still great, but Dallas Goddard, I think, is a pretty consistent performer now for that Eagles team. I think, let's see, he got 4 receptions on 5 targets, 4 to 3 yards, and a touchdown. And I think this is about what you're going to see from him every single week. 5 targets, 4 receptions, and probably every other game will get you a touchdown. I like Dallas Goddard. If he's a guy that if you're struggling at tight end, you go out and get Dallas Goddard. Yeah, I love it. Maybe the Cowboys, Scott Berman is chiming in. He's saying maybe the Cowboys could trade Amari Cooper for Mahomes. Yeah, ooh, boy, fantasy land. Now that is fantasy football. But yes, the Chiefs are on fire, and I'm wondering who's going to be the team. It's going to take a dirty team, but somebody's got to hit Mahomes. Somebody's got to take a little air out of his sails, okay? And who's it going to be? Okay, there's got to be some dirty team out there that's willing to just fucking hit this guy because obviously, they're nobody. The Ravens, that would be good. Good call, Scott Berman. Yes, the Ravens. Yes, they might be a team that would hit him really hard. Somebody's got to hurt this guy and knock him down just to make him, real. Make him realistic right now. Because right now, I don't think he thinks he can get hurt. Ooh, Seahawks, another good call. Jonathan Gregory, yes. Oh, that's the guy. Scott Berman nailed it. But see, Vontaze Burfict, if he was going to do it, he would have done it last night. And the reality is he knew he was being watched by those refs. They were particularly watching him because he got fined for like 3 hits from the Steelers game. So he couldn't be the Vontaze Burfict he wanted to be on last night's game, and I think you saw that they were absolutely all over him. Yes, and I was surprised the Bengals weren't able to sling the ball more and make more headway into that game. But again, I think it just shows that the Kansas City defense is a very good defense at home. And again, if you're streaming defenses and they're at home, you might want to look at we have to consider them going forward when streaming a defense. But I think you got to like Dallas Goddard. Also, Chris Herndon. He was the guy that came out and, let's see, he got 4 receptions, 42 yards, and a touchdown on 7 targets for the New York Jets. I mean, that's a guy that you want to, maybe he's a guy to consider going forward now in the tight end division. But yes, the Kansas City defense is absolutely coming on. I think there's somebody we got to start talking about. And what about this Michael Roberts, the Detroit tight end? He came in there and he got 2 touchdowns on 3 passes. I mean, that's pretty amazing. Is he going to be a thing going forward? I don't know. I mean, if Stafford can get him the ball, maybe he's somebody we got to start thinking about. And of course, my boy, David Njoku, I've been saying it from the beginning. People said sit him. I said start him. Obviously, everybody said start him this week. But he came in there. He was like your number 5, 4 receptions, 52 yards and a touchdown. I love Njoku. I think he's a guy you can count on every single week in that offense. I like him. Fido Rahman, good morning to you. How are you? Thank you for watching. This is Fantasy Football Harsh Reality. And listen, I even made a note to myself. I dodged a bullet benching McCoy, but then I jumped right in front of that bullet and made it hit me squarely in the face by starting Matt Breida. So this is why I had to make a trade. Obviously, Matt Breida is going to be, until he heals, he's no one I can count on. LaShawn McCoy in that messy offense, he's no one I can count on. And he was a guy that a lot of people like to start this week. I didn't. And Adrian Peterson, again, he's not the Adrian Peterson of old. He's not explosive. He goes side to side. He goes side to side all the time. And yes, hopefully Saquon Barkley saves me, but I just need some consistency if I get consistency from the RB2 position, I will have the team that I've wanted to have all season. And I thought one of these guys would be able to do it, but I'm willing to make a trade. I'm giving up Devin Funchess, who's been very, very consistent, who I was going to start. I was going to start him over Stephon Diggs going forward because Stephon Diggs just is. I mean, clearly it's the Adam Thielen show. I would expect a bounce back game. He did not have a bounce back game. So all things being equal, and I thought Tyler Boyd again was going to be involved in a shootout. Nothing. I think he got 3 targets. It was a very bad game for Tyler Boyd. Let's look at it. Let's go down. Let's look at my matchup one more time. And let's look at what happened with Tyler Boyd. Looking at the bench players, Tyler Boyd ultimately put up 4.2 points. That is awful. He wound up with 2 catches on 4 targets. 4 targets that whole fucking game. And listen, you may not be a Funchess fan, but the numbers don't lie. And he is a genuine wide receiver 1. Greg Olsen is generally injured in and out of the lineup. He has, the other receivers are nothing to really consider. They don't get much done. And so even that one game when he was getting covered by Jalen Ramsey, and so I was like, I thought it'd be a big game for DJ Moore. It wasn't. It was still a great game for Devin Funchess. He still came down with the touchdown. Devin Funchess has turned into, we're not talking about him, but we need to talk about him because the consistency is there. And I'm trading him this week for Mark Ingram because that's just what I got to do. But Tyler Boyd, I mean, he's hot and cold. He's one of those guys, though, because A.J. Green is injury prone. If he doesn't play, Tyler Boyd is in line for a big day. And even when he is there, it might be. And yes, Barkley equals 2 good RBs. And imagine if I put a decent RB behind him. And yes, I've been starting Diggs over Funchess, but I would, Jonathan Gregory, you would always start Diggs over Funchess. But going forward this week, I wasn't going to. I was going to start playing Funchess over Diggs with consistency because the consistency's been there for Funchess and not for Diggs. And it's a game of consistency. You got to have consistent production. So those are some things to look at. And listen, Jameis Winston right now is showing me consistent production. You can count on him to sling the ball. You can also count on him for 2 interceptions. That's just the way it goes. But 353 yards, 2 touchdowns. It's still a good day. Ingram for Funchess is a steal. Possibly. But again, Funchess is a clear wide receiver 1. Ingram will always be sharing that backfield with Kamara. Some games will be a Kamara game. Some games are going to be an Ingram game. We even saw it yesterday where they got down to the goal line and they did not give it to Ingram. They gave it to Alvin Kamara. So it's not like you can even say, well, Ingram's the goal line back. He's not. They go back and forth. They refuse to make it one guy or the other so you don't know what they're going to do. Rebecca is telling me she can't seem to win even with Mahomes and Antonio Brown. Well, the unfortunate part about that is Antonio Brown hasn't been Antonio Brown. Adam Thielen has been Antonio Brown. What we always get from Antonio Brown, we're getting from Adam Thielen. But, listen, they had the bye week. I expect things to come back online this week. I hope they do something with Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, he might report. I haven't checked the news to today. I hope he doesn't. Or I feel like if he does report, and yeah, Scott Berman says, I feel your pain. Yeah, because he has Mahomes. He has a very good team, and yet he's been in, I think he's 1-5 going into this weekend. So yeah, it's been, and that's the thing. Sometimes Mahomes isn't enough. The person that I beat this week has Mahomes in my comedy league, but she didn't start other players, and consequently she's losing the game. Week 9 for Bell is when they're saying. He hasn't reported yet. But doesn't he have to report this week to sign his tender? I thought this was the week. Oh, you're 2-4. Excellent. Good for you. But I thought this was the week that he actually had to. Oh, Rebecca's me too, 2-4. Ugh, tough day. But listen, I'm staring at 3-4 right now. You guys, we might be tied at the end of today. If you win and I lose, I'm going to be 3-4 but that's why I made the trade to help me down the stretch. And again, I played the Rams defense, which gave me 42 fucking points. And I still might lose this game because Latavius Murray broke off that long one and put him over the edge. And again, I should not be losing to a team with Lamar Miller and Latavius Murray as their fucking starting running backs, but that's what's fucking happening. Greg Zuerlein, though, he's back. He did a nice job for me. He got me 13 points. He was 3 field goals and 4-point afters. I thank God Zuerlein's back. He's going to help carry me to a championship. Oh, so next Tuesday, week 10? He has till week 10 to sign the tender? I thought it was week 8. Thank you. Jeremy Schwartz chiming in, everybody, with he likes the Mets this year. You know, Jeremy, we can always count on you to not really know what you're talking about, but still be a lot of fun to have involved. Should I trade Big Ben? If you have Patrick Mahomes, you can trade Big Ben because you could probably still go out and get Trubisky as your backup quarterback off the wire. He's very, very, very good. And then if you can get something for Big Ben, then yes, trade Big Ben because you have Mahomes. He's somebody you're going to want to trade away, right? And this is the time, guys. We got to make trades. You got to try and put together the team. We're at the halfway point. This is it. If you're not winning, then you're losing. You got it. And that's what the position I'm in. If you're not trading, you're not trying, which I hate that, but it's absolutely true. I was hoping one of my waiver wire guys would light it up. They haven't. You have Matt Ryan, too. You're just carrying too many fucking quarterbacks. Yes, trade one of those. Trade Matt Ryan, trade Big Ben. It doesn't matter. Whoever you can get value for, trade them away, get a running back, get back in the game. Yeah, and now that Big Ben's buy is over, coming back this week, yes, now is a great time to trade Big Ben. If you can get anything for him, a decent receiver, a good tight end, get some value, trade him away, especially if you already are sitting on top of Matt Ryan as your QB2. You're carrying way too many QBs. You should have already just let one of them go in some kind of a trade or a waiver wire maneuver. All right, really quickly, let's look at the wide receivers. I mean, Jarvis Landry, I said it was going to be a bounce-back game for Jarvis Landry. It was. I said it was going to be a bounce-back game for John Brown. It was. Emmanuel Sanders came out of nowhere, and he's really the difference in the game. He's the reason that I might not win because he came out and blew the doors off. And, I mean, we knew he would, but we didn't think it was going to be that bad of a butt-fucking. I knew it would be a good game, not like this. And also, let's talk about these Williams brothers at the Chargers. I mean, even if you have both of them, figuring out which one, Tyrell or Mike Williams, to play each week, even though Mike Williams still had a decent game, this week, it was Tyrell Williams that came down with all the money, 4 receptions, 118 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that isn't a lot of targets. 4 receptions on 4 targets. I loved T.Y. Hilton coming back in. Danny Amendola had a good game. That was surprising. Tyreek Hill, again, some consistency. That's what you want. Let's see here. He had... what is this? He had 2 rushes for 80 yards. He had 7 receptions for 68 yards on 10 targets. That's what you want to see. Mike Evans is doing great. He's showing some consistency now. And can I tell you something as a Mike Evans owner? If this is the way it's been every season, he goes into the fourth quarter with like 4 points and then ends the game with 17 points. It's amazing. He's one of those fourth quarter guys. I personally, I love the way that Mike Evans can pull 12 points out of his ass every fourth quarter. Michael Gallup is starting to show up, but they traded for Amari Cooper, so we'll see what happens with this going forward. Yeah, and the Eagles defense. What the fuck with the Eagles defense in the fourth quarter versus Carolina? Who cares? The important thing is that Carolina won and the Eagles lost. Fuck you, Eagles. Sorry, guys. I'm a Cowboys fan. That's why, even though I want a huge game from Saquon Barkley and I want a huge game from Evan Ingram tonight, I don't want the Giants ultimately to win the game. I want the Falcons to still win the game. So fuck the Eagles. And you were probably playing the Eagles defense. Well, when you're up against Cam, this is what you're running against. I mean, he has the ability to make plays, especially down the stretch. So that was kind of, but I mean, they were at home. It was a good time to play the Eagles defense. But against a team like Carolina, they're an explosive team. You're always kind of looking at that. All right, guys, this has been a great podcast. Go out there, get on the waiver wire, maybe pick up Dallas Goddard if he's still available, pick up Mitch Trubisky, pick up Tajay Sharp, who seems to be the guy to have. Although right now, is he going to be the next Corey Davis? Is he going to be one and done, one great game and done? But it looked like there was chemistry, whereas I didn't trust Corey Davis. I kind of trust Tajay Sharp. He might be a receiver to pick up off the waiver wire. He might be somebody good to look at. And that Herndon, that tight end down there for Detroit. Who was it? That tight end for Detroit that got those touches. What's his name? Who are we looking at? Detroit. Oh, Michael Roberts. That's what I was talking about. Michael Roberts. Might want to pick him up in Detroit. All right, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in. Again, if you want to learn the craft of stand-up comedy, go to my website, thecomedyinstitute.com. My masterclass is available for digital download. It's a video on video. And you guys, listen, let's have a great week. Hopefully, fingers crossed, I take them down tonight. I refuse the juice. You guys, take care. Good night. Have a great week. And go Cowboys.